So today we got a prolific guest with us, man. He is one half of the beloved group Atmosphere, dope lyricist. He is a label owner, rhyme sayers. Man, they've been a trailblazer in the indie scene for quite some time. Welcome, Slug, man.
Hello, thank you for
What
having
up,
me.
what up, what up, what up, what up?
Yeah.
Hey, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. I
And
appreciate the kind words there at
oh
the
yeah,
top.
of
Really,
course, of course. And most importantly for us is that you're a father. So that's why you're
Yeah,
here today.
that's where you're a superstar here.
Yeah.
see, I'm happy that I got here before I made it over to Drink Champs. Yeah, that's not what I want to be known for. I'll be that dad. If we can talk dad stuff, I'm a professional dad. I got a gang of kids. And yeah, I guess.
What's a gang of kids?
Yeah. Let's talk
it's
about
like,
it.
it's like a gaggle of geese. It's like a squad of wolf, or is that pack? I'm not sure, but a gang of kids. I have 4 sons.
Wow.
To me, that's a lot.
It is.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
I got 2 and I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm an amateur dad. You're a professional. I'm an amateur dad right now.
It's more than my father had. However, my grandfather had 8, so I got a long way to go.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, a couple generations ago, having 7, 8, 9 wasn't too uncommon, but
Or in the teens. My grandma had 16 brothers and sisters. That's that old school shit.
that had to be uncommon. That
Same.
shit's a lot.
That's a
Same,
workforce. You
same
have
for my wife.
you have a labor force when you have that many children.
Yeah, I did have a farm. I think they needed farm hands.
You got to watch out. They're gonna unionize on you.
What's the age range on the 4?
My age range goes from 4 to 26.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And considering that I'm only 34, do the math.
Yo, before we started though, you had an interesting reason why you said you showed up late to the pod. Can we talk a little bit about that?
All right, let's go. Yeah, I had to flip the laundry because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, okay, cool. Everything appears to be, okay, if I don't get this load in now, I won't be able to flip it before I got to leave to go pick one of the kids up from school. And that's going to put me back when it comes time to dinner and to operate. It's laundry day. And I just, I compartmentalize. I need structure. And so I just looked at and finagled the time and thought, okay, I'm going to have to be 2 minutes late because I got to go over here. I got to throw these clothes in the wash, throw these in the dryer. I don't have time to fap the shirts. Let's go.
Priorities, man.
So I did not fap the shirts. And so the one that likes his shirts to be long, they're gonna wait. I'll fap them tonight, hopefully.
So you're more afraid of your kids' reaction to not having their laundry proper versus your lady. Is that who's gonna give you the
No, she don't. Yeah, no, my problem is my problem. She don't care if I get the laundry in or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the kids need the clean stuff. I do not ever want to be the reason my children are embarrassed. I go the other way. I can be embarrassed. They can embarrass me all day, but I don't ever want that type of I when they get embarrassed to me, it's gonna have to be because of how I'm dressed. When they reach that age or when they reach that place where oh, my dad's a dork or something, like I'm cool with that, but not on some like I sent you to school looking
crazy. Right?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Where does that stem from? 'Cause there's a lot of parents who probably wouldn't care about that, but I like the fact that that's a priority for you.
Okay, where does it come from? Do I got to pay you an hourly rate to talk about this? I'm sure it comes from my own youth and moments of being bullied or traumatic moments where I felt embarrassed of a scenario or situation from being broke. I mean, yeah. I grew up poor, and when you're poor, sometimes everything ain't tight. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like having that instilled in me. I don't want that to be their problem. I don't want them to have to pay for the fact that I, had that. You know what I'm saying? So,
all right,
totally.
That's real shit.
That's
you don't want them to be the odd kid out.
If you want to be the odd kid, that's on you. But
on their own record.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Different.
But not because your mom or your dad are slipping. Like that's the worst.
Yep.
So you've got some older kids. How was that being a father early on? Because I'm assuming this is early on in your career.
Adults. What are you talking about?
Still kids.
It was harder when I was younger for a number of reasons. One, I had no idea what I was doing. I was mad at the world. I was broke. I didn't have all of the experience that I now have to help inform my decision making, you know? And so it's like, it's always harder under those circumstances, you know? I feel like, you know, having kids in your late teens or early 20s is that's rough. You know, I look back on generations before us and see parents who are able to do it, but there's a lot of factors there. You know, there was factory jobs you could get at 16 years old back then. There were things you could do to ensure that you were able to take care of your situation, you know, whereas nowadays at 16, 17, you're not walking into Honeywell and getting a job with some benefits to it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't have a high school education, Honeywell ain't even looking at you now. You need college educations to get some of those jobs nowadays that you could get back in the day with just a GED or even not a GED, you know? And so for me, wow, that was a left turn. I apologize for that. But nonetheless, for me, it was harder when I was younger for those reasons. You know, I was poor. I was scared. I had no sense of direction. I was still a kid. I was super immature. I like to party and kick it. And all of those things combined just made for a lot of poor decisions, which oftentimes will it just makes it harder to move fluently. You know what I'm saying? You don't got the muscles for that.
Did that affect the kid?
Oh, for sure.
It was one at the time, right?
Oh yeah, it was one at the time, and for sure. You know, I'm saying like, you know, sometimes I wonder about like, okay, because you know he's still around and sees my new batch. You know what I'm saying? And one of these days we're gonna have to crack into that and talk about like, hey, how does that make you feel? And is there anything we should really get on the table? You know what I'm saying? Like as far as that goes,
Like
but,
someone like they're getting the better you as a father.
well, they're getting the well-oiled version. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're getting the me that has time to sit down and play. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're getting the me that's not like trying to figure it out on the road a ton. You know, a lot of the things that I did in those early years, even to like build what I currently have, you know, in some parts, his and my relationship had to pay for some of that, you know?
Has he ever expressed anything, or is he just assumed that maybe he's,
you know, he's not here to talk for himself, so I should probably just kind of like, you know, fall back and speak for my own experience. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, there's things there. The love is there. Everything is good, but there's things there that I know that eventually I'm gonna have to speak to or account for. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I know that it hasn't been a huge issue yet, but I can only imagine because I look at my relationship with my father and there were things there, you know what I'm saying? Things that needed to be spoken about and accounted for, you know?
It's a constant thing we talk about here. Just choices we make in our professional lives versus our family lives, and whether or not we should be making those decisions because of the concern about what that impact will be for our kids, right? And so in your case, age, I think, played a big role in a lot of that stuff too. Your career, the path you took, right? Like being on tour and stuff like that. Like there's no other way to do it. You have to do that. And EFN is kind of in similar shoes. There's always like this crazy conflict. So I wonder, I mean, I know hindsight is 2020 and all that, but like if you had the same deck of cards laid out for you, do you think you would have made the same decisions leading up to where you are today?
You know, I would have made a better version of those decisions. I would have, if I could now, I would go back and shed the things that weren't as productive. You know what I'm saying? And shed the things that were like, now that I can look back and see, oh, well, that decision held me back. That, you know, we could all do that with our careers specifically. You can look at it at the you make a lot of baby steps and you can look at which ones were like, I didn't even need to make that step. I could have took a bigger step and went there, you know? Here's the thing with, I didn't even have a career. There was nothing there. I was a father first. And so when the career started to happen, it was like an accident. It was like, oh, what is this? This ain't supposed to happen. So I had to figure things out from that space. And you know, in that space, it was like, with my other kids, they're just accustomed to it. That's what dad does. Sometimes he goes away for a month. Sometimes he lives on the FaceTime. You know what I mean? Like with him, you know, pre-FaceTime, me and him already having a relationship that was already hard because again, I was broke and we didn't live together. And then suddenly to turn that into dad going away for 3 months at a time, because when you're first starting out, you get in the van and you just go.
Yeah, you're just on the grind.
And so, yeah, it was a whole different thing. So I would look back now and go, okay, there's certain elements I would have realized that at some of those things that I did, because I thought I had, you got to do that. You got to do that. I would delete a lot of that stuff, because
It sounds like also a maturity thing too, because I'm sure that, that has to do those choices are based on also on your maturity level as well.
Sure.
You would have shit out.
Sure. But also I remind myself, I reflect that when things started to pop off for me, I was a late bloomer, I looked at a lot of my contemporaries and peers and they were 22, 23 years old. I was 30 when we really started grinding, So at that point, I even had a level of a maturity that even then kept me from doing some of the even dumber stuff that I could have been doing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like I was somewhere in the middle there. What I had was like a code or a work ethic that forced me to see things like you got to go through it. There's no way around it. There's no way over it. You gotta go through it. That's how I saw stuff, because I that's what I picked up from my parents. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm at a place where I'm like, oh, even when I give people advice, I'm like, man, you don't got to go through that. You can totally climb that wall. You know what I'm saying? You could go around that and all. There's a lot of that now that I didn't know. But also, there was no mentorship for me. I was living in Minneapolis. We didn't know anybody who had really done what we were trying to do. We just knew what we read in magazines and saw on TV. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like what we were trying to do. We had nothing to look at as far as the career went. I had plenty to look at as far as the parenting went, because my parents were young parents, and so I was able to, even as the oldest of three, I was at an age already peeping what was going on with the dynamic between my family and my parents. You know what I'm saying? And so I had a lot to apply there as far as parenthood. And I'm glad that somehow accidentally got brought up, because that is a big part of my parenthood. The fact that I grew up, even when I was broke and struggling with the first kid, there was still a certain type of a thought or a certain type of way that I looked at what it was to be a parent. And that was based on the fact that I got to watch my parents stumble through it. You know what I'm saying? And so I got to see a lot of like behind the scenes that helped inform me,
Yeah, it's important.
I'm sorry, kid.
No, go ahead.
I'm always like really impressed at how on this show, and I think this is just a sample size of just society at our current stage in existence here, how often like some of those stumbles, maybe negative experiences, amount to a positive experience for the next generation, in your case, right? So like you might have seen things that were not the greatest, but you learn from them to be able to do better, versus following the same footsteps that might have led you into a worse path.
Sure. I think that it's a give and take, because there's plenty of stumbles my parents were never even allowed to make that I didn't learn from. And now that my life is kind of different than what theirs was, there's a lot of things I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to do with things like money. You feel me? Like I never learned anything. So I'm that parent that's like buying too many Legos, because I'm like, yo, I want to play with Legos. I didn't get to do that. Plus I'm not gauging like, hey, these things are fucking expensive. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, so there's certain stumbles that I have to make too, but it's a different kind of thing, or specifically the time thing, because now I'm in an area where I'm really trying to apply as much time as I can, and also make sure that I'm keeping them involved in like community stuff or sports or things of that nature. I didn't have any of that in my life. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how to do it. So there I am. I'm the weirdo soccer dad. You know what I'm saying? All the other soccer dads, they get it. They know, they fall in line. They soccer dad up because their parents did it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to do. So I'm out there, half awake, drinking a coffee, sup, like, it's just like, they're all like, hey, they got the wagon where they carry the chairs and all this. And I'm just like, fam, I'm learning as I go. It's these are good problems to have. By the way, I want to make sure to express that. Like, I have no complaints, because we are blessed. Our family's blessed. There's a lot of struggle out there and a lot of turmoil, and in the struggles that I'm dealing with, I can deal with these. You know what I'm saying? And so I know that's a good problem to have.
listen, try to explain to the soccer dad what you do for a living. I'm like, yeah, I have a show called, I guess, Drink Champs. And oh, what are you doing on that show? Sounds great. It's just a little podcast. Oh, well, what do you do? What do you really do? We drink a little bit. I don't know. And then they look it up. The next time they see me, like, oh, okay, what's up, man? What's going on?
I can't even imagine. That's yeah. But it's a good problem to have.
It is.
At the end of the day, because there's a lot of problems out there. We're all going to have some. So I always, I try to be conscious and humble about the ones that I'm currently having to deal with.
For sure. And going back to what you said about the Legos, it's funny because I feel like that in my crib as well. I feel like it's an overcompensation thing. Like what I didn't have as a kid, I want to make sure, every parent wants to do better by their children than what they had. They want to bring it up a notch. And so I'm telling my girl, I'm like, our crib looks like a Toys R Us. It's like, this can't be good. In the long run.
You got the big giraffe. You know what I'm saying?
We got those little like toy houses that are supposed to be outside because they're so big. We got it inside the crib, and we got two of them. It's like, and my kids don't even use it. It's like, what are we doing? Every day is another toy.
Throw a little TV in there and some cushions, and that's where I would hide.
Yeah.
And my daughter and my kids still want to leave the crib. I'm like, man, I'll stay here all day if I was a kid.
You give them a cardboard box and they're super happy. They make something up out of it. It's like, why did I just
That's
buy
what
all
I
this
use. I use shoe boxes to be I would draw in the shoe boxes computers, and that was the base for G.I. Joe. Yeah, that's what I had. You know what I'm saying?
One of my kids is like that, man. Yeah, you give him anything and he'll make it work. He'll make something out of it. He'll play with it. So, you just get that old broken toy over there, dog. And he'll go and mess with that broken toy, take it apart, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, then I got a kid who's also like, he's scientific. Like he's peeping, he's watching the social situations. He's very, I would say, adept, man. Like I'm proud of that, because I stumbled. You know what I'm saying? I stumbled my way through childhood. I stumbled my way through my teenage years, and he's kind of like he learned early that structure thing.
Speaking of science, like the other day I was.
Do you believe in it?
Of course. We were going somewhere, my son and I. He's 8, and it was unseasonably warm here in New York. This was a couple days ago, and we're riding through. I have the windows down because it's like that nice outside, and he's really, my son is very talkative, very inquisitive, always asking questions, always like having something to say, and he's super quiet. And I'm like, yo, you all right? And he's like slow to respond, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? Talk to me. And he's like, I'm just sad. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Everything was cool, like, until we got outside and he felt he expected it to be cold. And so he was like, climate change is gonna mess up my opportunity to be a zoologist. Yo, dog. Yo, my heart sank.
Deep, man.
My heart sank. First of all, I'm like, all right, I mean, we talk about it in the house, like you hear it in the news, like climate change is a real thing that we're dealing with. I didn't comprehend how much he understood its impact.
Sure.
Right. At 8 years old, if I'm outside in the dead of winter, close to the dead of winter, and I don't find it to be cold, I'll be jumping up and down like, yes, it's chill time. But he was really like thinking steps ahead. And yo, man, it was a moment, bro. And he, like, tears came out of his eyes. But then in a moment, as we were talking, he started to come up with like hopeful statements of where we're going to end up. Like, he knew what scientists are up to trying to figure this thing out. He was giving me examples, and I'm like,
it's not Waterworld.
it's not Waterworld. and he was like, so he kind of prepped himself, puffed himself up in that moment. And I was just, little questions I would ask him to get him moving in that direction. But he had all the answers. And he taught me a bunch of stuff in those 10 minutes that we were together in that ride. And then I was like, all right, we're back like level again. But for a moment there, I was like, my little scientist is heartbroken right now.
Yeah. That's rough, man. Like, and you think about, you imagine kind of like, let's say those of us in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I probably thought too much and knew too much about the idea of us going at it with Russia than say my parents were thinking and considering. To them, it was just headlines. And to me, it was like I was already trying to figure out how I'm going to get through it when it happens. You know what I'm saying? A movie like Red Dawn came out and I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
this is like a tutorial, you know? So I can imagine that the children now are, you know, not just aware of the headlines, but also aware of thinking about like, this is the world. Whereas somebody like me, it's like, I read the headlines and I think about it and I'm like, oh man, shit sucks. But I'm not necessarily sitting here on a daily basis considering, well, what is my life going to be like in 20 years? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm at the age now where I'm like, I realize, hey man, I'm not even guaranteed 20 years. So it's like, we're thinking more about like the next 5, 10, you know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting, man, for the kids. I saw a tweet or something. Somebody who, like, you know how they screenshot a tweet and put it on the internet, but I saw a tweet that was like a joke, but it was like, kid was like talking about what he wants to be when he grows up, and the tweet was like, LOL, it's climate change, you ain't gonna get to grow up, you know. It was and it was like, oh damn.
I struggle with guilt sometimes, just on low key, of just whether it's climate change, COVID, all the shit that's
Why,
going
it's
on.
all your fault?
No, just like, well, that, but no. But just the fact of like, damn, what did we bring
Bring a kid into, right?
Yeah. And
So
I
you
think
feel-
back, yeah,
You feel guilty for bringing kids in, or you feel guilty for being a part of the problem, or you feel guilty for bringing new people into something that they may or may not be able to survive.
bringing it into something that they might not be able to. I mean, if I want to be like super pessimistic about it, but just that's the feeling that you get when you look at the news and everything that's around you. And
I feel like you know, it's a ping pong. You go back and forth between feeling that and feeling guilty. I have friends who don't intend to have children for that very reason, you know.
Yeah.
And then the other side of me goes, well, if my friends that care all stop having kids, then we're only left with people who don't give a fuck raising kids. And I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't know the answer here. I can only just kind of like hope for the best and know that as humans, we are likely doing our job or whatever it is that we were created to do, because it's completely in our nature to fuck shit up. And so
and then adapt to it.
As the bacteria that we are, here we are, you know,
Right.
living on this piece of meat sitting in the middle of the street, and we're tearing it apart. You know what I'm saying? To the point where, well, maybe it will no longer be sustainable for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's like any bacteria or any virus, you know, and it might be the kind of virus that, you know, calms down and becomes a lot easier to handle, because that's how the virus figures out how it has to survive. Because if it kills its host, well, what good is that? You're going to die as a virus if you kill your host. You know what I'm saying? Or we could be the just fuckery virus that kills the host and goes away, but at least then we're fucking gone, and we can't fuck nobody other's planet up. You know, you watch these these rich people are flying to space like, hey, this is fun. It's like, man, I know what y'all are doing. Y'all are trying to colonize. Y'all are why you buying up all that Bitcoin, bro? Because you know that when you come back to Earth, money ain't gonna be here no more.
Right.
Like,
They're
whatever.
building
man.
currency they could use on Mars.
They're building currency they could use on Mars. Exactly.
All right, here's a two-part question going into the creative space a little bit. So your new album recently dropped called Word, correct?
Correct.
All right. So one, if you curious to know a little bit about the album, what went into it, and then two is, this is something that we also talk quite a bit about on the show, is just finding time. How do you balance out like being creative and being able to put a project together when you're also, you know, managing that of being a pro dad? Yeah.
Dad brain versus creative brain.
Home studio was the first thing that changed everything for me. The ability to like go and write at 6 a.m, if that's what it was, you know, the ability to just wake up and go to the basement, you know, when I realized that I could record myself without any outboard gear or any, you know, it's a microphone and a little machine to heat it up and my laptop, you know what I'm saying? When I realized I could start doing vocals like that, my output became even more, my creativity became even more, because it was no longer working on somebody else's clock. And that soothed every single part of me that ever had anxiety about what I did for a living. Once that kicked in, I was able to really figure out that space. But here's the thing, I don't do much else. You know, I don't have no homies that I go kick it with. I have homies that I kick it with on the phone or in text threads. I see them once in a while because of my career. That slowed way down because of COVID, but I don't really kick it with nobody, and that's not a complaint. And it's not that I'm an isolationist or antisocial. I'm just very picky about about how I do social. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so this is what I do. I either am dadding or husbanding or making music.
Sing.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
making music. And the truth of it is, it's my favorite thing to do. And that's not even I would do this even if it wasn't my career, but somebody said, hey, I'll give you the ability to do this in your basement for the rest of your life. I would come home from work, driving a delivery truck, and make sure, hey, you need any help with your homework, whatever. And then I would go make a song. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like my favorite thing to do. It's like solving puzzles. And that's what I feel like. I feel like one of those people that owns a ton of puzzles, just makes puzzles in their house. Everybody had one grandparent that loved doing puzzles. And I think that's who I am. But these are my puzzles. The puzzles are trying to crack a song, trying to hear what the music is saying, what kind of story it's supposed to be, or what kind of vibe, or am I supposed to just talk shit, whatever, just find it, crack it, and take another step towards eventually writing the perfect song or whatever it is that we try to do.
So you never had an issue of turning, off the dad brain and turning on the creative brain to write these songs?
I kept it together as one brain, kind of, because the creative brain is there when I'm dadding and the dad brain is there when I'm creating. You know what I'm saying? And I let it seep into my music. I let pieces of it seep into my songs. Even back when I was just starting out, I rarely go and revisit the older material unless I'm trying to like find something to work into the live set. And so, but when I do, or let's say the label's like trying to reissue some vinyl, and you got to listen to the test pressings, make sure that the bass is right and all this stuff, right? So then I hear these old songs and go, man, I was doing dad jokes in 2001. The hell was I thinking? Like, most of my humor, actually, I'm bigger than guns, bigger than cigarettes. Most of the humor or the sarcasm bars that I have from back then are dad jokes. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't see it then. I didn't realize. But now it's just like, oh man, I've been corny this whole time, And I gotta say, that's a feat.
Corny paid off.
Yo, it's a feat, because who else really got to do that? Biz had a version of that. You know what I'm saying? There's a few who got to do that, and they were all greats if they got to do that and do that for this long. And so I feel like, I'm kind of sneaking into some good company with this, because they've allowed me to really be corny for like 25 years at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if you let me be corny for that long, you probably let me do anything at this point.
How do your kids look at you? I mean, all they know is you. Well, maybe your eldest may have remembrance of you not as an MC, but how do they look at you? Do they just consider you dad, the corny rapper, or do they have do they appreciate your music? Like, how does that work?
It's interesting, because it's the young ones always appreciate it, because they're just like proud of anything their dad does. If I wasn't a rapper and I was doing origami and it was corny, horrible origami, they would still be like, yo, my dad makes these things out of paper. It's like the older ones get taste. They start to have taste and opinions, and then it's like you really get to see what that's based in. So I have an older son that will like a song because of one noise that's in the song. And I'll be like, that's wild to me. That's crazy to me. You heard that noise, you like that noise. Now you like the song. Now you're letting the song in. You know what I'm saying? But it was that one noise that sounded like a spaceship that first made you go, oh, that's cool. And then I think about like, oh, that's kind of what happened to me with music. You know what I'm saying? It's like, for example, that Steve Miller Band with the space noises at the front of it. That's probably the only reason I ever ended up liking the Steve Miller Band. I probably heard that noise as a kid. And then, by the time I was in the 9th grade, had their greatest hits on cassette or something. It was bumping Joker or something, or whatever that song was called. You know what I mean? Like, it's all these different things that kids allow to like shape their taste. And so with the kids that get older, you start to see those things. And then, I got one kid who's a preteen, and he's like, he has his own opinion. He has his own taste in music across the board, period. He's still proud of me because he now can see behind the scenes a little bit and see what goes into making this music. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like there's elements of that at play, but it's just phases. Even the oldest one who knew me before well, to be fair, I was trying to rap, since high school, junior high school. So he always knew his dad rapped, but he got to see it actually start to happen.
Right.
He liked the stuff by the time, he was already like 8, 9 when things started to happen. When he started to really pay attention to music, he was probably into his teens, and then he was really drawn to the stories. And that was one thing that I was always really proud of, was like, okay, I'm writing stories that a teenager is actually like listening to and paying attention to, and then talking to me about the story. So that was in a weird way, that was kind of like a, what do you call that, the not the drawing board, but the sounding board for me sometimes. It's like, oh yeah. he liked this song, he liked the hook, okay, that's interesting, because he already had his taste in music. You know what I'm saying? He would like things for certain reasons, not even that we had the same taste, but he had reasons for why he liked stuff. So when I heard him applying that to my music, that was always a good place, a good sounding board.
Have any of the kids try to take up music themselves?
All of them. All of them have, but I think that is phases as well, because you could have pulled me aside at any point in my childhood and been like, oh, he's trying to make music. And then a year later, oh, he's trying to play football. And then a year later, oh, he's trying to make music. I went from being a break dancer to illustrator, to all these things. And the funny thing is, they're all a part of my music. I incorporate all of that, my art, the art, the illustrations, the graffiti that I used to draw, the dancing, and I was even a DJ before I started rapping. Rapping was kind of like my last, it was like the final Hail Mary. Like, if this don't work, forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't even know what that means, because it wasn't gonna work. I knew that at this point. I think I was rapping because my friends thought that I could rap good. You know what I'm saying? And so I would freestyle, I would kick it, I'd write songs with friends and stuff, but none of us were like, okay, if we can only get, Russell to hear this demo, we knew Russell wasn't trying to hear shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so when it happened, it was like a kind of a surprise. I heard at the beginning of the show, you called me a label owner, and I'm always like humbled when people say that, but also I'm always like, man, do I say something? Because truth be told, like, we were, I guess you would say, we invested, we helped put the money down to help get things cracking and whatnot, but I had never made a decision at that label for anybody aside for Atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been at a meeting for an evidence record. I've never, had anybody show me the art and ask me what I think of the art to this guy or this lady or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because they know I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I am in here. I have a piece of this based off of early investing. You know what I'm saying? Right. But yeah, if they ever turned to me and were like, what do you think of this? I would probably throw up on myself. I wouldn't even know what to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never worn those hats, and I've never been good at that. I have a hard enough time just trying to direct my own band. You know what I'm saying? And just try to figure out what we should do next. It's like, I'm always good at talking to friends and giving them bits and pieces of my experience or my ideas or my thoughts, but I've never been good at like being like judging your shit. And to me, that's what companies are all about. They have to judge it because they have to decide whether or not they can make money off it or something.
Right.
But that's kind of why Rhyme Sayers has such a good reputation, probably. I mean, it's just artist friendly, Well,
I always felt like as an artist, there's a conflict of interest of me making decisions in that room about somebody else's project. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, so that means I have to know how much money is even available to spend this year in marketing.
Yeah.
And maybe I want all that money. So maybe, it's one of the things where I'm like, I never even wanted to be involved in that. And also I think that does help the artists trust my voice when they do call me to ask about creative opinions and stuff. But it's even rare that artists will hit me up and ask me about the business. When they do, it's usually about touring. You know what I'm saying? But it's not often that someone's like, so what should I do about this and this? And they want to do this. It's like, I don't even know what to tell you, bro, because, I just shook my head yes a lot and just hopped on the roller coaster. You know what I'm saying? Like I was there from the first day. So I don't know what you're supposed to do. People are like, oh, should I, well, how would you do this now? What advice do you have for a young artist? And man, the landscape is so different
Yeah,
now for
totally
a startup than it was for me. You know what I'm saying? Because you know me, I'm kind of like, well, make a 12-inch, send it to Bobito. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
who? You know what?
Yeah.
What's a 12-inch? You know, I don't. You know, so it's like it's one of them things where I'm cautious about giving people technical advice, and I'm more about giving people like heart advice. You know what I'm saying? How to apply yourself to what you're doing, to the people that you're dealing with, things of that nature. You know, I know how the heart works. Yeah, everything else is kind of like, and also, you know, it's like dice. You know, you can shake them all day. If you don't hit the number you're trying to hit, it don't matter. And so there's no strategy to dice. You don't go in and be like, okay, if I hold them like this, and you know, that doesn't really work. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I can't tell you what to do. I can just tell you how to feel. I can tell you how to feel, what to give people, you know what I'm saying? How to deal with the people that you encounter, things of that nature.
And you apply that to your parenting as well?
Yeah, because, well, I think that obviously I probably have to change some of the delivery, but it applies to anything, really. It applies to anything that you're doing. I think if you want to be successful and work with other people, there's certain things that, you know, you kind of gotta, you gotta be able to read the room. You know, that's one of the things that I always try to teach people first, is like, know what you're stepping in, know what you're getting into, know who you're talking to, pay attention to what's in that room right now before you know. I love the whole say less movement. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that I have a really hard time following it, but conceptually, I think it's exactly correct. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like oftentimes we say too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, we know you gotta jump in a few, pick up.
Has it been 45 minutes already?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like y'all didn't get to talk at all. I apologize, man.
Nah, man.
This is for you to talk to us.
Yeah, we're trying to learn something.
I got one question for you before we depart here. So you have a 4-year-old, you said. That's your youngest, correct?
Yep.
All right. So, well, two-parter. It's your fourth child. I don't know what the age disparity is between them and him and the next son, but it's reset everything, right? As far as, you know, them coming into the world and you guys have to start all over again. How different would you say that process was from the last one? Just from the first one, I'm sure it was dramatically different, but like from the most, you know, the last two, how was that?
It was way more natural, but also the last two were closer to his age. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a 4-year-old, 7-year-old, and 11-year-old. And so, you know, I mean, he's rocking right now probably pants that both of them, or at least one of them, owned. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
there's and that, you know, and that's why I'm like, oh man, we could have made 6 of these if we had made 6 of them over the course of 7 years instead of 3 over the course of 8 years. It might
Way
not
to apply the numbers game to this.
but you know, when you group them closer together, I do believe it makes things a lot easier. But that probably goes with anything. You know what I'm saying? It's like because you're still, those muscles are still trained. You're still exercising those muscles. And so here comes the next one. You're like, oh, I already know how to wake up. I already know how to do all these things that were hard when I had that first one. You know what I'm saying? And the jump between my first and second was so
big.
I was like, I'd already had 2 separate lives prior to that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I went from being a young father to being a grinding rapper to being a rapper who was like kind of getting towards the top of the world, to being like, okay, I'm gonna tone this down now and just try to age gracefully. Oh, you want some kids? All right, let's go. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, there's elements that I see that remind me of being a grandfather, even because I can play. I got time. Let's play. Let's get on the floor and play. And we're going to play for hours. We're going to play till you can't play no more, man. Army guys and Legos and all that. You know, I think that's a part of why I am a sucker for buying toys, is because I'm like, man, that looks like fun. You know, I'll see something and be like, oh, that looks like fun. I'm going to order that from Amazon. Yep.
That damn Amazon.
Damn, but you play for hours, man? What kind of energy?
I just drink water. I try to drink it from a can. I'm trying to make sure I'm not like giving away any advertising. I try to drink it from a can because that's how it tastes best to me. But I measure. I take water in like it's nobody's business, because I'm trying to live for as long as possible. But I love sugar. I'm addicted to sugar, but I try to be careful of how much of that I eat as well. I like to have a drink or two after the kids go to bed sometimes. I like to, I don't know where the energy comes from. The energy comes from not having to do nothing else, man. Like the energy comes from just being like, oh man, this is great. I'm going to do this. I'm going to kick it today. You know what? I know you're young, but you're going to learn how to play Monopoly. Let's go.
That's dope.
Yep.
Yeah, I was Googling around, and you got a rabid following on Reddit, bro.
Rabid?
Rabid.
Oh, Reddit. You know what I hear of these things. I've never been a Redditor. I did an AMA there once and it was pretty out of control. Maybe twice. I can't remember. But
fools are fighting over there was some article about, I think it was shouting you out for your birthday or something. And they had some stat in it. I can't remember what it was, but they were debating that stat and they were like, yo, why does X rapper get to have this much money when Slug should be fucking blah? I was like, oh shit. Okay. Let me step the fuck out of here before shit gets crazy.
I would never argue with somebody who's trying to advocate for me having
more money.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I try to think about when I was a kid. Prince was he was my ultimate. You know, I'm from Minneapolis, and so already I was like, oh, I part of me felt like I got to watch him do it, even though I didn't. But I had an aunt who did, and so vicariously through her, I really built a strong love for Prince. And so I always, like when he was doing things and he left the label and put Slave on his cheek and all that, I was all about that. I was like, go get it. You know what I'm saying? Beat these fools, you know, and I'm sure actually that had an impact on me, even as an artist, you know, watching what Prince went through, you know what I'm saying? As a signed artist who was a hit factory. He had major hits. He had a major career. He was seen as a musical genius from the people who were into making music, and he was seen as a hit factory by the people who were into selling music. And so I was like, man, you're the best ever.
That's dope. So before we depart, I keep saying that shit. Where can people check you out on Instagram? I love your name on Instagram, by the way, but I'm gonna let you say it. And then obviously the album Word, streaming everywhere.
I believe so. It should be streaming everywhere. It's Word with a question mark at the end, and came out in October. You know, we slow released it over the summer, and yeah, you stream it everywhere. You can find me at Instagram at Dadmosphere or just Atmosphere. That's the only place you're really gonna find me. Like, I'm pretty sure that there's social media sites everywhere, but I don't know who actually runs those things. I do the Instagram though. You know what I'm saying? The label does the Facebook. Twitter is down. Where else can you find me? You know, just stick your head out the window and holler, Slug.
On tour, right?
You got some new shows coming up, so I'm sure you're.
We got shows coming up. I have one of them kind of link tree things at the Instagram, so that you can find your way to everything. If you want to listen to music, there's streaming stuff inside of that link. It's one of them link tree joints. If you want to listen, watch videos, all that junk, it's all there, you know. But yeah, we got shows coming next year. I don't got nothing this year. This year's a wrap. I'm chilling because it's winter and it's Minnesota. But yeah, we'll be out and about again next year. You know, let's make this COVID go away so we can play some parties and rub up, be crazy and enjoy ourselves and throw confetti in the air and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. Great. Well, shout out to Richie for hooking us up and having you on. Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
And yo, man, hope you come back again. Talk dad shop.
Thank you for joining us.
You guys, thank you so much for having me. Like, for real. I appreciate this. And anytime you want me back, if you lose a guest, if somebody's like bails, I'll be a substitute anytime. Like, just holler.
Let's do it. Say no more.
Yeah, I got jokes. So I see y'all style, so I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to kind of just wedge in and joke with you. But anytime, this was great.
So, we gotta have our cast of stepdads on deck.
Yeah, for sure. Peace, bro. Have a great holiday season, bro. Take care.
Peace, y'all. Take care.